And here I put the energy density and the year. We start with the lead acid, back to Gaston Planté in 18650. And if we double every year, in 1928, we should have the release energy of atomic bomb. If we keep going, now we should really have the energy related to the direct conversion of the mass E mc square, and so on. And if you go to 20,100, we even have the energy or maybe supernova. As you know, we are really far away from this, and let's go back to the feet of our ground, and this progress didn't happen for the simple reason that we have been limited by chemistry and what type of chemistry. So what type of chemistry are you talking about? If you look at the lithium-ion technology, as you can see here, we have these kind of systems with 2 electrodes and liquid electrolyte. So what happens in here, when you are going to connect the positive and negative, you are going to get this type of curves that you will see in this presentation, where the voltage is plotted as a function of capacity. And what matters is more or less all the surface area below this curve, which is really the energy density, what you are going to get from the system. Now, of course, this energy density is very simple, is the product of the voltage by the capacity. And what is important is to know what is really behind these 2 values and how chemists can play. The voltage is going to be defined by what we call the band structure or the electronic structure of your materials. Then, the capacity is going to depend on the crystal structure of your material, c'est-à-dire the type of vacancies that you can have in your compound. And also, what you need to take into account is the polarization between charge and discharge, which is going to give you an idea about the quality of your system in terms of energy efficiency. But certainly, the most important part of it is really related to the fact that these kind of devices, you have about electrochemical interface. And you have about 15 chemical interface. And this is really the nightmare for electrochemists, how to solve them. So, obviously, through the years, people have tried really to play with this simple formula, the capacity, where in this case, you need to increase the number of vacancies in your insertion compound and lower the molecular weight of the molar mass. And of course, we have used the periodic table. Great, plenty of elements, 118 elements, but when you want to design materials with a context of sustainability, you cannot use all of them. And as you can see here, I have several colors for the simple reason that some are toxic, some are too heavy. Remember, M has to be light. Some are not radioactive and so on. So finally, at the fundamental level, we can really use most of these elements, but when we talk in terms of practical application, what is important, abundant material, low cost, low weight, and no toxic elements. So this is more or less a type of element that we are going to do. Then, having selected this element, you need to design more or less better electrode. And to design better electrode, you have a simple relation that is giving you the performance, which is the sum of the material composition, of the material texture and morphology, and surface functionalization. And how this will happen is now we can really look at the composition and at the chemical design, where in this case, we are going to use the knowledge of chemical structure, chemical bonds, and also use analogy with the Bible that the mineralogy consists. Then we can also develop this kind of texture and morphology by, in this case, playing or designing this core shell type structure. And finally, we really, in this case, can play also with surface science and doing some grafting. So as you can see, it's a wide discipline where it requires a large amount of expertise. So indeed, I want to emphasize on this important point. The battery research is a multidisciplinary field. It more or less relies on 3 pillars that are material science, interface, and devices. And of course, it requires expertise in the field of solid-state chemistry and the field of organic polymer chemistry, as well as surface science. And additionally, you need to have great development at the characterization technique, either with electrochemistry or a large amount of in situ characterization. And of course, at the end of it, we need to take guidance from theory. But I think, besides this multidisciplinarity, I think what is the most interesting for, I think, a scientist within this field is really that batteries pose a fundamental scientific challenge emerging from concrete technology bottleneck. And this is more or less what I'm going to try to show you in this presentation today. So, having set up the scene, now let me elaborate more on how the science and innovation involve in the quest for better battery materials. And to do so, I will select three examples, three snapshots of the research, in which I will show you how to increase battery energy density by proposing new concepts and new cell configuration. Then I will show you how to increase battery sustainability by going to new type of chemistry. And finally, I will bring you a little in the future and to show you more or less how we are trying to develop smarter batteries nowadays. So let me first start with increased battery energy density. And here I will take very simple example, very simple compound, lithium cobalt oxide. This is a material that you are all using in your battery today. And I'm going to show how research on these materials 25 years ago can break to a fundamental breakthrough. So this is a structure, as you can see, a layer structure, in which you have the metal layer, CO2, and between you have the lithium layer. For people who are not very expert in crystallography, you can take it like that. It's a simple millefeuille, where you have the metal layer and the lithium is a cream. And you push, lithium can get in and out. So if you look at these materials, this has been the first compound reported by Sony back to 25 years ago. In this case, they can really get 150 milliampere per gram. They could not get higher because in this case, you have a breaking of the structure as indicated here. So through the years, chemists have tried to improve the release in materials by performing chemical substitution in this compound and mainly replacing cobalt by nickel, manganese, and so on. And this has led to this new family of material that is called the lithium NMC. And of course, large amount of groups towards the world are playing with this phase diagram. And in this case, you can see we have these materials that are defined by the amount of nickel, manganese, and cobalt, and we say 333 means that 33%, 532 means 50%, and so on. And you can see nowadays the research is evolving towards getting cobalt-free materials. For the simple reason, because you have certainly heard about the ethics going on with extraction and cobalt and so on. So there is a huge push at the industrial level in order to prepare materials without cobalt.